Hey folks, piano and keyboard lovers, and those of you who are interested in exploding your musical ability to play gospel music by ear. Now, the beginning of the year is a perfect time to look back at the last year, see what you've accomplished, and set some goals for the new year. Who am I? I'm Sean, a musician who literally came on the YouTube scene by simply transcribing all the greatest musicians and learning from them. And the channel is simply about sharing what I've learned, what works for me, and my own perspective on how music works. Now in 2020, I made more gains than I've ever made for any year, and I learned more than I've ever learned. And I actually look back and can quantify the growth, and it feels good. Although some of that was probably due to Corona. But true to my goal, I want to make sure that you can get the same results that I had. So in today's video, we're going to look at the 7 reasons why you probably aren't getting any better. Okay, no, that's not practicing. That's shedding. See, what I used to call practicing, I was actually shedding. And what's the difference, right? If you sit down to play, listen, if you sit down to play and you don't have a plan on what you're about to do, you're going to end up shedding. And I'll notice that even in a practice session like the one I was just doing, when I'm learning chords, I end up just kind of putting my own things, and it's easy to cross the line, isn't it? Those of you who practice, it's easy to cross the line to kind of start shedding and not practicing. And I have to constantly bring my mind back to the task at hand and focus. So you want to make sure that you are practicing. You want to know the difference between practicing and shedding. You're usually going to go slower with practicing, and you want to be able to know what it is you're doing before you touch the piano. If you've ever heard the phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket, that would be a perfect analogy here, because a good practice session needs to cover 3 things. It needs to cover the fundamentals, it needs to cover songs, and it needs to cover vocabulary. What are fundamentals? Fundamentals can be anything from scales to chords, progressions, anything that forms the building blocks of what you need to know. Many people have told me that they use one of the videos that I did on YouTube. It was a video I was going over just this topic, fundamentals, on what every musician needs to know based on skill level. And that's also broken down in longer form on my website as well, where we just kind of go through the fundamentals that you should know at each skill level, right? So you want to dedicate a time to when you are just making sure that you're working on those fundamentals. And then you have the second thing, which is songs. Now, you always want to be working on a song during your practice session. And you're lucky, you know, if you're on my channel, because that's all we do is just break down songs or break down parts of songs. So it doesn't have to be a whole song. And of course, on my website, I organize the songs by skill level, so you can see it that way. But if you're on my YouTube channel, you can do a simple search and you can do it that way. But the important thing I want to say is that when you're practicing songs or part of a song, you're not just looking to duplicate the notes, but also the feel, the rhythm, the placement, the timing, the phrasing, and the unique voice of the musician who played the song. You're trying to capture him. You're trying to capture his soul, his essence. You have to capture that. So a lot of you guys will say, man, I learned the notes, but I don't really sound like them. Well, that's because you haven't separated learning the notes from learning the feel. And you got to practice the feel. And so when I say the song section, this section of the practice is not just learning notes, it's actually practicing feel. And that encompasses, and the way you practice that is a little bit different than just trying to learn the notes. And the last part is vocabulary. And my definition of vocabulary basically is the amount of things that you have memorized that are in muscle memory. You know, you'll hear phrases, you'll hear chord progressions, and you'll want to make sure that those things can be memorized so they can be automatic, so that they are a part of you. So some people were shocked one day when I was on a session and I had told them I had been working on one song or part of a song for 4 months. And I was like thinking to myself, that's nothing, right? Listen, if you are a church musician, then generally your set list, okay, is changing every week. So it means that you reach maximum capacity very quickly. And you hit a wall fast, right? Because you're not staying at anything long enough for where it can really become part of you. and to get into insane levels, it's going to require some type of automation. And the only way that comes is to stay on something. But I recommend practicing something. When you're practicing something, that's different than learning your church songs, right? That's different. I recommend that if you're practicing a song or a movement, you need to stay on that for 90 days. And that leads me to my number 4. At the beginning or the end of a year is a great time to evaluate your progress and set expectations. However, I feel like annual goals are too far away for you to accurately give specifics in a goal. And I feel like this is the reason why a lot of New Year's resolutions fail, because you have no checkpoints and so many things can happen, wink, wink, in a year that could totally change and cause you to need to make adjustments. So I recommend having quarterly goals. This means that every 3 months or 90 days, which I mentioned before, you sit down and you evaluate the progress you've made and you reset new ones. But I definitely recommend you do goals more often instead of just having yearly goals. I have a spreadsheet I actually created, and if you go to my page, you can download a free chart. I put a link in the description, and I have a goals chart where I recommend that you set quarterly goals and that you can fill it out. And I'm going to give it to everybody who's watching this video. And I even have a video where I explain how to fill out the chart. But I think the quarterly goals will be way more helpful than annual goals. This one's difficult on an emotional level, but it causes the most discouragement if you miss it. A lot of us remove the psychological component, or we don't understand the psychological component of practicing. And I'd argue that the mental portion of playing and practicing is more important than, say, Sean, give me the fingering for this run, right? So let's give an example. Let's say that in 2012, someone said, you know what, I'm going to learn to play in all my keys. I'm going to learn to play in all 12 keys. Well, right now, was it 2021? That's what, 9 years? So they've been saying that for the last 9 years, right? What do you think it does to their confidence if they wanted to play in all 12 keys in 2012, but they still aren't playing in all 12 keys, right? It kills it. If they had instead focused and did the quarterly goals that I had suggested and say, I'm going to do 1 key. So by the end of 90 days, by March, I'm going to play, I'm going to play a song in E. I'm going to play a song in A. And I'm going to try to play it as good as I can. Not only is it more reasonable, but you would have been playing in all 12 keys in 3 years, right? Because you would have had 4 keys a year that you could have done a song in each one. But more importantly, you get that psychological boost that comes from having accomplished your goal. And each time you play a key and each time you get one, you get that boost, you get that confidence. And confidence is a big part of playing. And so we need to be aware of the mental part. For a lot of you, there's a reason that you kind of feel discouraged. There's a reason why you may not be as motivated. There's a reason why you may not be practicing as much. And it's because you need to experience winning, not failures. You need to experience and set goals that cause you to win. And the more you win, the more confident that you're going to become. And the more confident you become, the better your practice sessions are going to get. Listen, you can't halfway want this thing. You got to go all in. If you're on the chat, if you're on the comments, say it. Say you got to go all in. All right. Say you got to go all in. Listen, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to me. We can't half step. We have to make actual growth an obsession. What are we making an obsession? Growth. I'm obsessed about growth, right? You can have a job. You can have millions of other responsibilities. But it's that obsession with growth that's going to carry you through and get you through those rough times. My biggest hurdle up until, I would say, last year was developing a practice routine, because I had so much stuff going on, multiple jobs, family, then starting a YouTube channel, then starting the website as a business. It was so much, and practicing was so difficult, and I felt like everybody was just kind of fighting for my limited time. And when I read the book, I think it was Atomic Habits, and it was just talking about the benefit of just starting something and just doing it for 2 minutes and stopping. And when I read the book, it blew my mind. And what I did is I remember those 3 sections I was telling you about, and I was so excited that I created a training on my website. I created an actual checklist, a chart, gave a presentation, invited someone to guest with me, put it on the website, and the outcome of that was I started to fall in love with the actual practicing again, whereas before I'd be like, man, I gotta practice. Whereas now I don't like missing a day. You know what I'm saying? And I was wanting it more. So obsessed with something isn't a bad thing, right? It doesn't mean I'm neglecting everything, but I got to the point where I don't want to miss a day. And this is where all my gains, when I said that all my gains happened, a lot of them happened this year. It was because of that philosophy and that idea. Could you imagine where you would be if you fell in love with just the practicing component, right? You'd be unstoppable. So every effort should be made to ask, how can I improve with what I'm doing? How can I get better? And make that an obsession. So there's a statement I used to tell all of my one-on-one trainees. And the statement is, and repeat after me, say, whatever you want to keep, you must repeat. Again, whatever you want to keep, you must repeat. This phrase solves almost every situation that many musicians find themselves. I had this phrase and now I forgot it. Well, how many times did you repeat it? So I want to read something to you. It's funny because I'm not even touching the piano, barely today, because this is so important. I feel, for musicians. This comes from the same book, Atomic Habits. It says, habits create the foundation for mastery. So in chess, it is only after the basic movements of the pieces have become automatic that a player can focus on the next level of the game. Each chunk of information that is memorized opens up the mental space for more effortful thinking. This is true of any endeavor. When you know the simple movements so well, when you know the simple movements so well that you can perform them without thinking, then you are free to pay attention to the advanced details. In this way, habits are the backbone of any pursuit of excellence. When you know the simple movements, when you know the foundation so well that you're not thinking of it, then you can focus on the advanced stuff, and the advanced stuff will seem easy. Again, thanks for watching, and I wish you an amazing year as you absolutely smash your musical goals. Bookmark this video, come back to it when you need direction and guidance. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.